Alright, so this video is about the supposed idea that everybody has a purpose in life. If you do have a purpose in life, generally it probably isn't a very particularly meaningful purpose. And I'm watching the Olympics now, like a lot of people. And, makes me think about, I think I've heard interviews with people where they say, God had a purpose for me, and this and that. I knew God had a purpose for me, kind of a thing. A lot of religious Olympic athletes. And, in these kind of situations, it might be somewhat believable, if you're naive, to think that God wanted these people to become Olympians specifically. And, in this situation, I guess, maybe, if anyone had a purpose that meant anything, maybe it was an Olympian who, by performing very well, you might inspire someone else to try their best at what they do, that kind of thing, or, inspire the next generation of Olympians or whatever, which is fine. But, when you think about most people, if they have a purpose, it's not particularly apparent. Most of us don't strive really hard to achieve something that we consider to be important to us. Either we just don't think anything is important enough to put the work in. That's pretty much my position. Or we don't have the talent, or we not in the right place at the right time, or we never discover what it is that we want to do. We never discover our own talents. But basically, most people are just, it doesn't really matter what they do. I'm a driver. My ethics are such that I want to be an environmentalist, as I'm sure many of you know. And I'm driving for a green car company, generally. We have 98% emission-free Mercedes. I mean, I think that's kind of a cop-out because you still fill them up with gasoline, which is still extracted from the earth in a environmentally harmful way. But for the last year or so, I've got to drive my company's Tesla. We got a couple of Teslas. And I get to drive the Tesla every day. So, still not exactly perfect. You're still using energy. The energy has to be generated somehow. But, it's a step in the right direction. It's a hell of a lot better than most car companies that are just burning gasoline. At least I can say I'm not specifically burning gasoline on a daily basis. I might be burning energy that comes from fracking, which is not a lot better. But, the step is in place. The first step is to have a car that doesn't need to work on fossil fuels, in which case the Tesla doesn't. And the second step is to hopefully have our energy be provided by sources that aren't fossil fuel based. So anyway, it's nice. It's good that I'm attempting to contribute by, working a job currently that follows my beliefs. I'm actually thinking about totally changing my job. I mean, it brings me no joy or sense of satisfaction, particularly. Sadly, doing the right thing, being ethical, as I've said, I think before, isn't what satisfies your needs in life. What satisfies your needs in life, and this is very sad, is animal things, instinctual things. We want, as men anyway, we want to be alpha males. We want to have a large amount of resources at our disposal. We want to have women who, want to be to birth our children because of our resources. When you start moving in that direction, the direction of just gaining resources, it's all about money, really. If you start making money, then you get those instinctual needs fulfilled, and you feel better about yourself, and you feel joy, you feel pride, confidence. And that's one of the major things that dismays me about life, is that in the end, you don't, I don't know if it's me or if it's everyone, but personally, I can't derive happiness by living by my ethics. And I've tried very hard to live by my ethics to a point where I feel like I'm doing the best I can ethically, to work a job that doesn't harm the environment as a lot of other things I could be doing. And I've worked other jobs that I actively loathed because I was harming the environment and doing things that I didn't agree with ecologically. They were all like little things, but working at the hardware store, we throw away tons of crap all the time that could be recycled because it's just not, it's not profitable to care, or when I worked for Arrowhead Water, I was loading water bottles into the trucks. And at the end of the day, if there was even a slight dent in some of the entire cases of plastic bottles, I'd be throwing these bottles full of water that was taken from the California aquifer probably, and throwing them in the trash. This is the kind of thing you do with jobs. Every job, usually it's throwing stuff out, but there's always some kind of unethical thing that they ask you to do because that's business. So, if I have a purpose, in my mind, it's like, well, I have to live by my ethics, and when it comes to my ethics say, try to be good for the environment. What I'm doing now is probably the best thing I could be doing given my limited skill set. But this is sort of on a very long tangent. It's basically what I'm saying is, even though I'm doing something I believe in ethically to some extent, I still don't feel like, I don't feel like I'm fulfilling my purpose. And I'm not even sure I really have a purpose, because I have some talents, but none of my talents are outstanding. You could say, well, maybe you should be trying a little harder. You could be a math and science whiz and become a alternative energies engineer or something like that. But I'm not that good at math, And I wasn't really born into a situation, if I really wanted that to happen, if God really if that was God's purpose for me, was to be a math and science engineer that worked on alternative energy technologies, He would have had me be born in Scandinavian countries, where not only is there more of a general concern for being environmentally aware, but the schools are better. And they don't even give that much homework over there. And we give tons of homework here, and our schools suck, and I don't like homework. If God wanted to make me an alternative energy engineer, He would have put me in Scandinavia. But He didn't. And I don't have outstanding math skills. I'm okay, so at math. I was pretty good at science in my day, but, I don't think I have the enthusiasm or the ability to be someone who comes up with groundbreaking theories in the world of alternative energy technology or battery technology or whatever you have to, something in that field. So, what does that say? Well, the only other thing I like to do is music. I wasn't particularly gifted at music. I wasn't placed in a situation where people encouraged me to learn music from a young age, or where I had access to good teachers in music. So what's my purpose, really? I don't know. I'm switching jobs. I'm going to become an airline dispatcher, because at this point I'm tired of sacrificing, making the sacrifice of doing what I believe in ethically for I'm trading that in for being poor and not knowing if I'm going to be able to pay for myself when I get older. And I want some things for me. I want to be able to travel for free. Or not free, but for cheap. I want to be able to see my family, who's spread all around the country. I want to be able to see parts of the world that I haven't seen before. So I know it's not my purpose to be a dispatcher, but as I said before. You don't really gain joy in life through doing the right thing. You gain joy in life through meeting your instinctual desires. And I'll be getting paid more money doing this job, and I'll be able to take care of myself. I'll amass more resources. It's all basically BS. It doesn't mean anything. But basically, this is just coming around to my point. Most of us in the end probably have to give up on the idea of having a purpose, because a lot of times for most of us no purpose is made clear. We don't have any outstanding talents. We're not Olympians. We're not shown the light in a way that we can understand what our purpose really is. And so, if that's the case, if most of us are just kind of, either letting our talents go to waste or don't have any particularly outstanding talents, which I think is certainly the case that most of us, do that just because we have to in the modern world. If that's the case, that most people don't really become self-actualized and, realize what their true potential is, then God is just doing a terrible job assigning purpose. And you could say maybe my purpose is smaller things like being a nice person, making people laugh, because I've endured suffering in my life. I've had to develop a sense of humor about everything, about the absurdity of the difficulty of life. And I do attempt to make people laugh. I enjoy getting laughs out of people. So, you could say maybe that's my, that could be part of my purpose. I tried writing jokes. They're not very good. I mean, they're okay, but I wouldn't mind being a comedy writer, but you have to know people, and, you have to go to school for writing, and it's a little late for that for me. I think it's kind of hard to get into those jobs. So again, there's no pathway to self-realization for me. There's no pathway to unleashing some inner hidden talent. Which makes me think that if I do have a purpose, it's little things like being funny and being a good brother, or being a good, uncle, or being a good son, being a good friend. And really, a lot of people have that purpose, A lot of people, you could say, well, you're supposed to be a good uncle, you're supposed to be a good dad, you're supposed to be a good son, you're supposed to be whatever, It takes the whole magical feeling out of the idea of having a purpose, People only ever refer to having purpose when they're talking about achieving some grand goal that gives you prestige or, means that you're really making a difference in the world that large numbers of people will feel. But the reality of most people's purpose, if they have a purpose at all, which I highly doubt, I think most people are just here at this point. I used to like the idea that people had purpose, but when you look at how many people live purposeless lives without purpose, it's just kind of hard to believe that so many people are just failing God. And or either they're failing God, or God isn't doing a very good job of opening up opportunities for people that should be getting them. So yeah, the purpose is overrated, and for those people in which it's not overrated, well, you're the lucky few, and who knows if it's really. The funny thing is, most of these people, work their ass off, and then they act as if God had the purpose for them, Don't you want to take some of the credit after working hours upon hours upon hours, especially when the rest of us are supposedly given the same our own purpose, and yet somehow we're not realizing it? Alright, well, anyway, so yeah. Purpose. Overrated. Final summation. Done.